Good morning. It's Saturday. It's 7:30. It's a bit early this morning. I didn't want to get up. We had a bit of a late night. I can't even get my words out. We had a bit of a late night last night. Took my daughter to watch the Welsh women football team play. It was a bit of a late night for us, so it was a bit hard getting up this morning. So bear with me. But we are reading Mark's Gospel. Still in Mark's Gospel, chapter 9, and we are verses 30 to 41. Okay, this is a bit of a long one, so I'll try and get through it as quickly as possible. Here we go. Leaving that region, they travelled through Galilee. Jesus didn't want anyone to know he was there, for he wanted to spend more time with the disciples and teach them. He said to them, "The Son of Man is going to be betrayed into the hands of his enemies. He will be killed, but 3 days later he will rise from the dead." They didn't understand what he was saying. However, they were afraid to ask him what he meant. After they arrived at Capernaum and settled in a house, Jesus asked his disciples, "What were you discussing on the road?" But they didn't answer because they had been arguing about which of them was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12 disciples over to him and said, "Whoever wants to be first must take last place and be the servant of everyone else." Then he put a little child among them. Taking the child in his arms, he said to them, "Anyone who welcomes a little child like this on my behalf welcomes me. And anyone who welcomes me welcomes not only me, but also my Father who sent me." John said to Jesus, "Teacher, we saw someone using your name to cast out demons, but we told him to stop because he wasn't in our group." "Don't stop him," Jesus says. "No one who performs a miracle in my name will soon be able to speak evil of me. Anyone who is not against us is for us. If anyone gives you even a cup of water because you belong to the Messiah, I tell you the truth, that person will surely be rewarded." Wow, there's a lot in there. But when I read this bit, I can see, the disciples, like we've said before, they were just normal people that Jesus had chosen to follow him, to be part of his in a group. And I kind of see not only myself in the disciples, but I also see Christians today, the church itself. And this passage here, I think, just really pushes that point home. It says that, they didn't understand what he was saying, but they were afraid to ask what they meant. How many of us have heard something about Jesus or about the Bible or have read the Bible, but we don't understand it, but we're afraid to ask what it means because we don't want to look stupid? It's all of us do it. People who have been in the church a long, long time, those who are new, nobody wants to look stupid, so nobody wants to ask. But then he goes on and Jesus says to them, "What were you discussing out on the road?" Well, actually, the disciples had been arguing over which of them were the greatest. Yeah? And Jesus kind of tells them off for that. And then further down, when he said, "Well, we saw somebody casting out demons in your name, but we told him not to because he's not part of our group." And how is the church like that? The church these days, the overall church, the general church, that's how many of them argue over who is the greatest? The super churches, the mega churches that you've got, that they argue over who is the greatest. Even the people in the church argue over who is the greatest. They think that they're the best Christian, they know the most, they love Jesus the most, and they don't want people to kind of outsiders to be part of that because they're not part of this group, this little insider group. He said, we told him to stop because he wasn't in our group. But that's not what Jesus wants. He doesn't want us to be, arguing amongst ourselves and trying to prove that we're the best, that we love Jesus the most, and, we're the biggest church with the most people in, or, the most groups going on, or, whatever. The disciples, this was, over 2,000 years ago. And the church is still like that. And we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be. Because Jesus says, anyone who welcomes a little child like this welcomes me. And he says that anyone who is not against us is for us. So he is all inclusive. And, we shouldn't be arguing over who's the greatest, because at the end of the day, none of us are. Jesus is the greatest, and that's what we need to keep in mind. And to stop looking at our own little inner group. Christians are quite, they do that, that they kind of look at this inside group and make it like an exclusive club, and it is not an exclusive club. Jesus is for everyone, as he just showed time and time again in the Gospels. He showed that he was for everyone, not just for the little inner group of people. And don't forget what it says, that they were afraid to ask questions or ask him what it meant. If you've got any questions, let us know. If we can answer them, we will. Because Jesus loves you all. He loves you all, and he wants you all to be part of his family. I hope you have a lovely Saturday and a lovely weekend, and we'll see you again on Monday. Bye for now.